Welcome. In front of me is a CUBOT KingKong Mini 3, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick look at this phone. So let's just get straight into it. I'm gonna ignore the info at the back right here for the time being. I'm gonna talk about it later on once we actually have the phone in hand. So that being said, this device was released in 2022, so I am like 2 years too late to the party. But taking a look at the device, my goodness, that's a tiny little phone. The name would suggest that it's small, but gee, that is like unnaturally small. Actually, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna bring some other device to compare it to. So I actually couldn't find the phone, but I found the case from it. So this is the case from what you probably could guess, the iPhone, what was it, 5, the long one that still had the button at the bottom. So that was like I think the best selling one, and as you can see, this is basically the same size almost, with actually probably bigger screen than the iPhone had at that time. So yeah, pretty interesting. Just kind of wanted to compare it. Now anyway, inside we have a little thank you note, you're welcome, and then besides that we have a charging brick, which you can see right here. This is a 10-watt brick, so nothing really special. A Type-C to Type-A charging cable with a Type-C port, which I do want to stress. This device was released in 2022, and it is a relatively budget device. And with that being said, it already came with a Type-C before European Union was forcing manufacturers to add by default Type-C and just allowed this and no other charging port. So CUBOT was already ahead of the game, putting budget phones with Type-C, which is, I do want to point out, it's a very nice thing that they did right here. Obviously, they could have just tried to save up like a couple cents and put the garbage micro USB port, and at the time they could have gotten away with it, especially at the price of this device. Now besides that, we also have a headphone that are Type-C headphones. So there we go, and that's about it. So anyway, alright, actually that's not it. There's also another compartment which is gonna squeeze that in there. Beyond that, we have a little moisture bag, and we get the quick start guide, and that's about it. Okay, now getting a look at the device, let's first peel that screen protector that we have right here. Hopefully I can manage to do it without actually getting any trash under the actual screen protector. Stop lifting. There we go, pretty good. So managed to not get almost anything under there. So let's boot it up. I think this is the power button. Yep, there we go. I do want to bring up some like typical size devices. So this will be a Mate 20 Pro. And this had like what, a 5-6 inch display. So you can see in the actual size comparison between these devices. So it is a decent difference. Now keep in mind, this device isn't big really compared to like something like the Samsung Note lineup. This is relatively small, and this device is just tiny. Now I do want to point out, it's tiny, but it's not in a realm of so small that it's kind of becoming cumbersome to use. Typing on it obviously would be difficult, but typical like burner phone that you want to, I don't know, go hiking and have a relatively maybe like robust device, as it does have a rugged build, while still, you know, having the ability to call people and maybe just do like some navigation and stuff like that, it will do the job. And this is actually a pretty interesting device for such a use case scenario. Now, well, I'm going to the setup. Let's talk about the display itself. So this is a 4.5 inch display. Now the resolution on here is fairly minuscule at 480p, so 480 by 1170 pixels. So like I said, very underwhelming. But that being said, in terms of pixel density, because the display is so small, it actually falls in between 720p and 1080p resolution in terms of pixel density. So it is coming at 281 pixels per inch. 1080p displays at like the typical 6.5-inch size will have about 400 pixels per inch, so about a little bit over 100 more than this one, while 720 will be at like 200 pixels per inch. So this is somewhere in between, which is very interesting considering the resolution right here is only 480p. Now, as you can see, once the device boots up, it's not the fastest one. Obviously, you're not going to be getting it to play like Genshin Impact on here or anything like that. But when it comes down to just doing the typical, obviously, you can see it will do all of that. Now, let's take a look at the back of the device. So here we have just a single camera setup, and this is a 20 megapixel wide sensor. Then at the front, right over here, we have a 5 megapixel sensor. Now, it doesn't really specify what the video recording you can capture on here, but I assume it's going to be somewhere between like 1080p 30 or 720p 30. So there we go. Continuing on, in here we actually get a relatively decent sized battery for the actual size of the device itself. So we have a 3000 mAh battery, 6 GB of RAM, and a Helio G85 processor. Now, this device was released in 2022, so the processor here was basically a little bit older than what, for instance, other devices from CUBOT released later on. Also budget one and about the same price, like the Note 50 or the X70. So yeah, those would be newer devices coming with basically newer generation of the processor that we have right here. Now, it is also being powered by not powered, but running on an Android 12. So that's actually okay. I believe we should have an update to newer version of Android on here. But whatever you manage to update it to right now is most likely going to be the newest version that you will ever get on here. So if anything, we probably get an Android 13 on here, but I wouldn't expect Android 14 to be available. If it is, that's most certainly going to be the last Android update that you get on here. Now, in terms of storage, which I didn't mention, we have 128 gigabytes of built-in storage, and we can, I believe, pop in an SD card. Let's quickly check that out. Or probably not, considering this is way too small. We can pop that out somehow. No, never mind. So we just have dual SIM card support. No SD card support, unfortunately. Okay. So last thing that I want to mention is the price of this tiny little device, and it comes at about 160 euros, at least at the time of release of this phone. So that was like 2 years ago. And as a phone that you maybe just want to get for, you know, traveling or go hiking or stuff like that, and just have a phone for that, and you don't really care if it gets broken. It is also a little bit rugged, so if you drop it, it should survive it, though if you drop it obviously on a screen, not so much. Then this is, I would say, a pretty decent device just for that purpose. Now, obviously I wouldn't be using this kind of phone for my daily drivers, as it doesn't really have anything else that would make it stand out at this price range. It might be budget, but even budget devices do have something like higher refresh rates, higher screen resolutions, faster charging. They always pick one of those things to kind of set it apart over the other devices. This one is just bare minimum, low resolution, raw processor, low charging speeds, crappy cameras, and all that stuff. So nothing really that makes this device stand out outside of its form factor and the kind of rugged nature of it. And if you need, like I said, a burner phone, a phone that you can just kind of toss around and not care for it too much, if it breaks, this will do the job. Small, so obviously going hiking shouldn't have much of a problem fitting it somewhere where it doesn't take too much space. So in this aspect, it's going to be a pretty decent device. So anyway, with that being said, hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.